morning. My name is Margaret Chen, and I'd like to read an excerpt from my short story, The Man with a Cartier Watch, which is in my collection, Suburban Gothic. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Cambridge Common Writers and Julia Leaf for inviting me, and Michael Lowenthal for recommending me for this reading. The Man with the Cartier Watch. 24-year-old Julia Cross had acquired over the years an increasing and uneasy fascination with the occult, with the supernatural, with the mysteries and coincidences of life, and most especially with psychics. There was something irresistible, Julia imagined, about having someone answer all the complex questions of life without having to divulge on her end any personal information or even having to establish any sort of committed relationship. You need only pay this special person a certain amount of money, and he or she would reveal everything, unlock the secrets of your life, or at the very least, predict what was in store and help you along your way. For surely someone must know all these things. She'd always been one to believe in reasons and answers. And this was how Julia found herself seated one late October morning in the dim, incense-scented kitchen of the world-famous psychic Jonathan Todd. Todd had read the palms of rock stars and royalty. Yes, indeed, he was not called the psychic to the stars for nothing, and how she had ever been able to schedule an appointment with him was beyond her wildest imaginings. Julia had found out all about Jonathan Todd from a women's magazine, and now here she was. Just for fun, she told herself, face to face with the rumpled-looking, bookish, although not unfashionable, psychic star himself, nervously looking on as he expertly shuffled a very worn, very yellowed pack of tarot cards. Todd had owlish, alert brown eyes, magnified by black-rimmed round glasses, and his hands were plump and soft-looking. As he cut and flipped down the cards, he talked fast, impatiently, and she almost expected him to start snapping his pudgy fingers along with his predictions. One of your parents just had an operation, he said. Your dad, I think. He's recovering well, though, although it'll be a while before he's up and running again. Julia nodded politely, disappointed that she did not feel more overwhelmed by surprise. Her father, indeed, had had a bypass done over the summer, or at least that's what she had heard from her sister Annie. She hadn't talked to her parents in 5 years. You're not close to your parents, Todd continued eerily, though they would like to be closer. You can visit and all that, but it'd be best to keep your distance. Then he looked over at her carefully, as if seeing something abnormal or even dangerous in her face. Maybe he was just confirming if he was right, although it wasn't that kind of look at all. He sounded too sure of himself. I've kept my distance all right, said Julia, sitting up a little now. I haven't talked to them for a long time, and I don't plan on visiting. Todd nodded and went on. You're not married. Don't have a boyfriend right now. Here, Julia felt compelled to blurt out. I do have a boyfriend. Well, I don't see him. What do you mean you don't see him? You look like you're alone. She opened her mouth to speak and then shut it. Must be careful, she thought. She had already talked too much, but before she could stop herself, she heard a voice low and uncertain. So he's not the one? Todd shook his head decisively. He's not the one. He was studying her again. You know, he said, you're just not good at picking out men. In an entire room of men, you pick the worst one. Oh, really, was all she could manage in her surprise. She suddenly envisioned tall, athletic Jeff standing in a police lineup with puppy dog eyes holding up a placard that read, pick me, I'm the worst. Get rid of them, and look for someone new. Someone you can look up to. Someone people will say, God, she's lucky to be with that guy. You know, the man with a Cartier watch. The man with a Cartier watch, that had a definite ring to it. Well, it was true that Jeff, her boyfriend, was not the Cartier watch type. He was the no watch type. He carried one key around in his jeans pocket and wore t-shirts. Yes, catchy phrase that, the man with a Cartier watch. Now she wouldn't be able to get it out of her head. She would probably start looking for guys with Cartier watches, whatever Cartier watches looked like. She had no idea. She herself owned a Timex. Don't worry, there will be others, assured Todd briskly, and he began shuffling the cards and slapping them down on the table again. Now, are there any specific questions you'd like to ask? Actually, I'd like to hear about my career. Good, your career, Todd cheered up. You're doing some sort of office work now, is that right? Yes, I work at a nonprofit. But it's not really what you want to do. You need something much more creative, more glamorous, like TV or film production, something to do with TV or film. Really? Yeah, yeah. You should take up any opportunity to do TV or film work that you can. Wow. Julie was genuinely shocked. She had never considered anything remotely similar, and she thought she had tried everything. But you shouldn't be in front of a camera. Definitely not. You should do something behind the scenes. She was beginning to not like this Jonathan Todd. She wondered if there was something wrong with her clothes or makeup, or maybe it was her expression. Someone had told her once that she looked too serious, like an accountant, and Julie could see how that would not be exactly movie star material. Still, she wasn't that bad looking. Not too short, not too tall, not too thin, not too fat, with so light brown hair and attentive hazel eyes. Her best feature, she thought, and she wondered again why he looked at her so strangely. But never mind, she told herself. This was all distraction. TV and film were not at all what she wanted to do. There was only one thing she had ever really wanted to do. I was wondering, she ventured. I've always wanted to be. Will I ever be? She sighed and took a breath and gasped out. An artist? A painter? An illustrator, maybe? Todd looked at her steadily for a few seconds and then said, no. Julia was glad that Jeff was away for the week. His older brother, Ben, was moving to a new apartment, and Jeff had driven to Baltimore to help them out. That was typical of Jeff. Anyone who needed help, he would. She used to like that about him, except now she realized he pretty much helped anyone and not just those close to him. This sounded good, but meant he was always off helping someone or other, and she would find herself spending another weekend alone. He had left Saturday and would not be home until the following Friday, and she was relieved by the wide expanse of time stretching ahead of her. She would need it to think about the disturbing things the psychic had said. She had not been expecting such contrary, infuriating advice. Psychics were supposed to tell you positive, encouraging things, weren't they? What did they really know? And who was this Jonathan Todd anyway? She couldn't quite bring herself to call him a fraud. He looked so well fed and affluent and respectable, but a fraud was probably what he was. He was trying to help you, a nasty little voice piped up inside her head. Granted, she could see how doing something in TV and film would sound glamorous to many, but they sparked nothing, absolutely nothing in Julia. Was there something wrong with her? She wished she could talk to someone about it right now, but she didn't dare call Annie, who would give her a 2-hour lecture, and her friend Dana was away for the weekend visiting her own parents. As for Jeff, well, even if Jeff had been home, she would not have told him about the psychic. Not right away, at least. Jeff was surprisingly superstitious, especially for an engineer, and would have probably made things worse by not treating the whole incident with complete and unequivocal contempt. She would have appreciated disgusted laughter thrown at her, but he would not have laughed. So that day, after the psychic's unwelcome revelations, she kept herself busy just to give herself things to do and time for her rattled feelings to settle. She ran every errand she could think of, including washing her car and organizing her inbox. She took a walk at the park and then treated herself to a leisurely manicure and pedicure. Then, feeling a little sorry for herself, she ate dinner alone at her favorite restaurant, Golden East. This was a small, drab-looking place, outfitted with only a few rickety tables and cramped booths. But the food was tasty and inexpensive, and was located in a busy shopping plaza right next to her favorite used bookstore. She went into the bookstore after dinner, browsed a while, and purchased a dictionary-sized volume of women art deco painters. Thank you.